Well, I grew up in England, and they were, well, mostly in North Wales as a kind of teenager, and the dogs were part of the way of life there. So I really wasn't very interested in them because I was working with horses at the time. But of course it's sheep country and everybody had a dog. And then many years later I met my husband in Antigua, and he had a few sheep on an island in Nova Scotia. So eventually I moved here, and he used to round up the sheep on foot, and I said, that's just crazy. I said, you need a border collie. So we saw an ad in the paper for a border collie, $50 from a farm.
Dogs are thought to have been domesticated over 10,000 years ago, likely as companions for hunters. As organized farming took root, dogs became an indispensable part of farm life. Now, agriculture has changed a lot over the years, and so too is the role of dogs on the farm. Today on NSK9, we visit farms where dogs are part of the family in traditional working roles and as loyal companions.
Off with, stay, that'll do, go on. So off we went to look at these puppies, and of course we didn't really know. I mean, I've been around dogs all my life, but we didn't know how to choose a working puppy. So the first one that came out from under the barn, the farmer shook some feed, and the first one that came out from under the barn and growled at all the other dogs, my husband said, I like that one. Big mistake. Anyway, it was a wonderful dog because it was so tough. We couldn't hurt its feelings or wreck its day. And he turned out to be a good dog. And then one border collie's not enough, so that dog became Bill's dog because it was a very macho kind of dog. So I bought myself a female, and you know, then there was more border collies.
And they just kept appearing.
Yeah, and at the time there was nobody here really to instruct or help. There was Martin Penfold, who lived up in Pictou County, but his 3 hours drive, and to get there for lessons or advice was not as easy. So it was books and videos at the time. We didn't have, you know, Facebook and internet because we lived on the island for 6 years. And our flock grew and our dogs grew. And then I became interested in wanting to trial.
On a sheep farm overlooking Lunenburg Bay is where you'll find Hilary Flower, her sheep and her border collies. Hilary is passionate about preserving the traits of the working farm dog. And not long after bringing dogs to her family farm, she decided to challenge herself and improve her skills by learning competitive herding.
How it started, we went to a clinic. It was a learning clinic from a Scottish gentleman called Jack Knox. And we had to fill out a form to say what level our dogs were. And we thought ours were doing pretty good. So we put, you know, Bill's dog, Teddy, was working at farm level and mine was just started. And anyway, we packed up the kids in the truck and we went to New Hampshire with the dogs and went to this clinic. Well, as it turns out, we were the only ones that had real working dogs there. The rest were working dogs, but they were all hobby farm weekenders. And it was quite embarrassing because in the big picture, you know, we thought our dogs were doing okay, but they weren't. So we were taken from the big field to a little pen and taught how to control our dogs and maneuver our dogs correctly. And from there I got hooked, and now it's, you know, 5 dogs later, 30 years later, children are grown and I can get back to trialing. So the trialing I like the competitive edge of it, but I also think it really improves your dog. It makes you work your dog with a lot more precision than just going out, sending it to round up the sheep and, you know, bring in the sheep. It makes you take care of your sheep a lot better, be more thoughtful, and make your dog more thoughtful. So for me, it's, I don't know, I just think it's a lot of fun. It's a great hobby, and it has a purpose, because I wouldn't have the sheep without the dogs.
Yeah, because they are, I mean, these are really working dogs.
They're really working dogs, and the sheep are just, they're opportunists. If you don't have a dog and they're not hungry, why are they going to come into the barn? You know, when you have your dog there, they never question it. It's, oh, okay.
You'd lose your voice quickly yelling to your dogs across the fields herding sheep. In some places, dogs can be miles away from the handler, so herders use whistles, and that's not an easy skill to master.
You can get whistles made out of all kinds of materials, aluminum, stainless, plastic. The plastic's the beginners, it's like $3. And I have to say I drilled for about a week before I learned to whistle. I started with the plastic whistle, which is very practical in this climate because these, if you go out in the cold, will freeze to your lips. So, but the metal ones, the aluminum and the stainless, have a lot better pitch, a lot better sound, carry longer distances. You need a whistle if you're working distances because when the wind is blowing and you know, the dog's out of sight, the whistle, and it can hear you. Sometimes you think they can't. They can, they just don't want to. So, you know, the whistle, as I say, we start with verbals, we teach them the left and the right, the walk up, the lie down, and that'll do means it's a universal again. That means work's over, come on, let's go. And so then you, one by one, put that verbal onto a whistle. Walk, walk, get up, Sue, get up. It's a year before you can really see what you've got. You know, I like to think all of my dogs would work, all of my pups would work, but I've had some that don't. Best bloodlines doesn't mean to say it produces the best working dogs. They're all different and depends how you raise them too. Especially if a pup gets out and you've got some rams in the field or an aggressive ewe, if a pup gets in there and the ewe or the ram, they will chase, they will dog hunt your dog, some of them, and take it into a corner and pound your dog as a puppy, then a lot of confidence is gone and you know, then you've got to rebuild that confidence. You may never get it back. You may turn your dog into a more aggressive dog because he becomes defensive when the sheep are around. It's just such a lot of variables and every single dog is different.
It goes back to when they actually were out there hunting and killing, and they wouldn't eat everything, so they would probably bury some of it to come back to later. They didn't want to leave it out in the open that somebody else could come and scavenge it.
And these dogs do the job of a man. I mean, and they don't expect anything. They just want to have a good girl and their dinner at night. They don't expect anything else, and they'll work all day for you. And they never say no. You know, there's no sick day. They're just incredible dogs. To me, to have a dog that lay at my feet all day and wanted to be loved, it's not me. So it's great for other people, you know, and I understand the value of a loving pet, but for me, these are dual purpose. You know, they are at your feet, ready to go.
The reality is, on most farms these days, dogs are pets. In the Musquodoboit Valley, you'll find the Brown Farm with horses, cattle, and a Sheltie named Charlie.
So this is our family's small farm. It belonged to my husband's grandparents, and we built a new home here 26 years ago, raised our 4 kids here, and we love it. It's beautiful here.
And you've had a number of dogs over the years?
We have. Charlie is actually our, I think, 5th Sheltie, and we've had some other awesome dogs along the way, but right now Charlie's our main dude.
And so what sort of role does
Charlie play around here? Okay, you might want to hit that.
He is the main person of the family.
Our world revolves around Charlie. Our routine revolves around Charlie. it
Pretty
seems.
much.
So describe that for me.
Well, he probably sleeps in the comfiest bed. I don't know. He's like the kid, I guess.
He is. He's like our fifth child.
Yeah.
He really is. He has a super outgoing personality and loves everybody. He's a great companion. He's kind of my best friend.
Come here, Charlie. Come here. I work in the mornings on a dairy farm not far. So I leave at 4 in the morning and I get back home around 7, 8, and I'll take a nap. Mind you, the dog sleeps with me all night long. So sometimes there's times where he'll be in bed for almost 12 hours.
He doesn't get out
hours.
of bed when she goes to work.
No, he'll stay in bed. He
stays in bed.
doesn't budge at all.
Yeah.
He likes his Tempur-Pedic mattress.
Charlie's life is a little bit different than the traditional working farm dog, but he still plays an important role. As a competitive horseback rider, Marin can often be found with her horse and Charlie close at hand.
I did a lot of training with Charlie, and I guess kind of exposed him a lot to animals and wanted that exposure for him. And he's such an excellent listener. You know, he responds so well. And he is under your feet all the time. He's just like your shadow, pretty much. But
But he seems to also know to get away from
yes, he's very, very smart about it. We haven't had, knock on wood, any accidents with him. And I think that's due to his, responsiveness and respectfulness for animals that are a lot larger than him.
And I
So-
think Shelties they're just intelligent dogs.
Absolutely.
They just have an innate sense of intelligence and sense about themselves to know where they kind of learn early what their own boundaries are. Safety is important on the farm, and we, taught him really early on that he needs to be respectful of the animals and not get under their feet and not be in their space. But he loves being out around them, and he really is a farm dog. He's in his element here.
Charlie doesn't have to work too hard on his days on the farm. But that's just a reflection of how farms have changed over the years.
Well, I think dogs, had a job on the farm, whether it was for, predator control or herding animals. That's changed. We don't have that so much. There is a coyote issue out here. We hear them at night, but he's not protecting any.
He's not really an attack dog
No,
anymore.
he's really not an attack dog. So, so that role has changed, where it's more, I think now on a small farm like this, it's more just companionship.
Yeah, so it really has evolved, the
Absolutely.
role of the dog on the farm.
Absolutely.
Back near Lunenburg, Hillary is passionate about keeping the working dog tradition alive. And in many respects, dogs and commands which go back many, many years are as or more effective than today's modern herding practices.
And sometimes we only want to get some of the sheep, so we do what we call a shed. We'll put the sheep, have the sheep in a group and say we only want to take 4 or 5 sheep off. Stand, 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 floss here, this. So we'll just take this group. Walk, walk. And that's very useful if you have a lame, come, there. Walk, walk. Stand, stand. So if you had a lame sheep or a sheep you needed to bring in, you can just take in a few of the sheep and not have them all. Since the Border Collies have been in working, the commands have been the way they've been. And they're rather bizarre, but every dog you buy is trained with the same. Now the whistles are different.
Okay.
You choose your own whistles. The gather is, because they derive from the wolf, and they're usually working in a pack, the gather is, and basically I'm the alpha bitch, and they're bringing the dinner to me. So, but taking them away is really hard for the dog. That's hard for a lot of dogs. It's hard for them to drive them away because it's going against their instinct. When I go out to take a dog to do a job there, they all look at me and make me feel guilty, like, pick me, please pick me. Stand, come by. So they're going to come out this gate, and we're going to drive them down by the barn. And the idea is to take the lambs reasonably slowly because, you know, if you were taking them to market, you don't want to be running the weight off them. So they should be moving them at a, you know, a nice pace, but not running them. Come, come. Stand. Stand. Flash here, look. Stand. Stand. Always the black one. Stand.
Some of them just like the taste of it. Some of them, it's an extra form of fiber for them. If they're feeling sick, they'll eat a lot of grass and it'll act as an emetic, and then they'll vomit it all back up again. But that's not the only reason. Some of them actually like the taste of it.
You know, you'd be surprised the type of people that can live with a Border Collie very well. Sometimes the people, and even the farmers, it's not always a dog for them if they don't have the time, and they're just going to tie the dog up and it's going to bark and it's going to be frustrated. Some people I've sold puppies to, I've thought it's been the perfect home, and they've told me they've answered all the questions exactly like I'd liked, and sometimes they are the people that have had an issue. To me, just be simple, set the ground rules and stick to them. Once is a habit with a Border Collie. So if you see it chasing a car, stop it right off the get-go. Don't let it escalate till it becomes... If it's a barker, stop it, you know? And you don't have to be mean to your dog. I scold mine. Floss, here, Floss. She's going to be mortified at this. But I take them like this and I just, you know, under the neck and look them in the eye and I just tell them off. And if they're really naughty, then they will be put down like the mother would do and told off again, you know? And I think I have a more of a bond with my dogs because I work them. So they look up to me like the leader. Where are we going? When are we going? They don't want to make me mad, too mad.
But the Border Collies also thrive on discipline and rules.
Yes, discipline and rules and consistency in the discipline and rules.
Hillary's dogs thrive on the discipline and challenge that comes with herding. And while many breeds are now being bred for urban lifestyles, Hillary is keeping the working dog instincts alive in the Border Collies she breeds.
It would be a shame to really lose the working genetics. I think it'll always be in the background and it'll always surface through, just like the hunting dogs. But it really is a shame to not keep the working lines going, because this is what the dogs were bred for, this is what they live for. And I just think it's a shame not to. And I mean, I know they excel at agility, fly ball. I mean, tremendous at so many sports. And to me, that's because they've always been bred for their brains. These dogs have to get sent out onto the hills up in Scotland and Wales, and they're maybe 2 miles away, and they have to go out and think for themselves and look and scan and bring all the sheep back, not be told every single move like we do. When we're trialing, we're very controlling of our dogs, but I also like my dogs to be able to go out into the woods and figure for themselves that they've got all the sheep and to bring them back in a nice mannerly way without harassing. And so, you know, that's a thought process for a dog. And if you start taking that away, you're taking the brains away. We want athleticism, we want stamina in the working dog, but we don't want a dog that's like, you know, on the go all the time. You need to have a dog that is ready to work when it saves its energy for its work and lies down when it's not working. I like the mindset of and every dog, like I said, every pup is different, and you have to work. Like some dogs are a little harder than others, and some are tender to correction, and you've got to change. It's good for your personality, you know, to have the different types of dogs. So yeah, it's kind of a passion. Stand.
From the hills overlooking Lunenburg
Stand.
Bay, Hillary works her dogs every day. It's not the same type of relationship Martha and Marin have with their dog at their farm, but it's still a deeply personal connection and one rooted in tradition.
They can do more harm than good if left untrained and loose on the farm, because they can get into the sheep and they can harass your sheep, or if they're not trained or obedient, they can, you know, you send your dog out to gather the sheep, which is natural in the dog, but it also has to be trained, and you have to have a staff. We'll go out and chase your sheep through the fence, over hill, over dale, into the woods, and your dog's in hot pursuit, just like it's chasing deer. So, you know, you have to put the training into, you have to put the hours into them, and a lot of farmers do not have the time to do that, and I totally understand it. But, you know, if you want to have a nice dog, you need reasonably good bloodlines, and you need to put the timing and the training into the dog. And,
it isn't just a matter of going and getting a border collie.
No, just because you've got a border collie, it's not going to go out and gather the sheep and lie down and walk up and do a left and a right and do everything you wanted. Chances are it's going to run right through the sheep and chase the sheep until you train it how to cast around the sheep. Some are very natural and will do that. Yeah, it's a long road. It's not easy.
Visit us online to tell us your dog stories for possible inclusion in future episodes. And don't forget to share photos of your canine friends on social media with the hashtag NSK9.
A lot of farms are smaller now, and farmers tend to use the bucket of grain, and the sheep have a routine, and they're more barn-fed than ranging on the mountains and the hillsides. So the use for the dog is not as needed as much on a small farm, but when you get into, you know, go out west or where the sheep are ranging islands and mountains, you definitely need a border collie. Yes, you can do a lot with a four-wheeler or a bike, but it's not the same. The combination of the two works very well. You know, I mean, my dogs, they'll jump right back into the gator. As soon as they hear it start, they realize, oh, it's sheep time. Because often I'll just drive up and then work my dogs, or bring the sheep back and I'll drive the gator and the dogs will work the sheep. So yes, it's changed, and the availability, like I said earlier, of trained dogs is not available here in Nova Scotia, and the few, you can buy them from overseas, Europe, the USA, but very expensive. And really, do you need that kind of dog? You know, to me the most rewarding is to breed a pup, start a pup, and go to a trial and maybe do well. That is very rewarding.
And that is like,
yeah, but also
a sport element now.
There's a sport element, but also they have a use on the farm. It's not just that they are a sport. I need them. I wouldn't have the sheep would be gone.